the workers and the companies affected by the unjustifiable and unjustified tariffs.
Diversifying our markets, building pipelines until we aren't beholden on the U.S., and making sure that we can get our products around the world.
We will become stronger and we will diversify and turn ourselves towards Europe.
The announcement hit global markets like a thunderclap. The U.S. would impose a 50% tariff on all imported copper, effective August 1, 2025. Copper futures soared, traders scrambled, and the world's most critical industrial metal became a pawn in a high-stakes geopolitical game. Investors watched in disbelief as the VIX spiked and phone lines lit up from Wall Street to Washington. For decades, North American trade, especially with Canada, had been seamless. Now, a fiscal wall was rising, threatening to fracture that integration. The administration framed the move as a way to protect American industry and jobs, promising a revival of domestic mining and refining. But for manufacturers and builders, it looked like a self-inflicted wound. Costs for a vital metal were about to skyrocket. The era of stable, predictable trade was over. The global copper market split in two, one price for North America, inflated by the tariff, and another for the rest of the world. Shipping routes shifted, and Canadian mining executives fielded calls from new partners in Asia and Europe. The U.S. aimed to protect itself, but instead risked isolation, paying a steep price for its protectionist gamble. The world was reorganizing around the new American policy, leaving the U.S. on the outside looking in. The shockwaves were just beginning. The copper tariff wasn't just an economic policy, it was a seismic event, reshaping alliances and rewriting the rules of global trade. The consequences would ripple far beyond the trading floor. As the dust settled, it was clear, the U.S. had set off a chain reaction it could not easily control. The world was watching and adjusting, the stakes had never been higher. To grasp the crisis, you must understand copper, the silent enabler of our technological age. It powers our homes, devices, and the very infrastructure of modern life. The digital revolution, electric vehicles, and renewable energy all depend on copper's unmatched conductivity. A gasoline car uses 50 pounds of copper, an electric vehicle needs nearly 200. As the world shifts to green energy, copper demand is exploding. The U.S. tariff now acts as a direct tax on this transition, making every EV, solar panel, and grid upgrade more expensive. Copper isn't a luxury, it's a strategic asset, as vital as oil once was. Its price shapes everything from home construction to national infrastructure. By targeting copper, the U.S. is bottlenecking its own economy, threatening innovation and raising costs for all. The tariff doesn't just hit one industry, it slows the entire engine of progress. The green future America wants is now more expensive and uncertain. The circulatory system of the economy is under strain. The consequences will be felt everywhere. For years, the U.S.-Canada copper supply chain was seamless. Canadian mines fed American smelters, which supplied manufacturers across the continent. The 50% tariff shattered this model overnight. U.S. smelters, reliant on Canadian concentrate, faced impossible choices: absorb huge costs, pass them on, or cut jobs. Manufacturers saw copper prices soar, forcing up costs for everything from wiring to cars. The once smooth flow of materials became a series of costly hurdles. The U.S., seeking self-reliance, instead made itself more vulnerable, pushing Canada to seek new markets. The integrated North American advantage was being dismantled, piece by piece. A single policy decision fractured a decades-old partnership, leaving both nations less secure. The supply chain's strength was its unity, now it's every company for itself. The fallout is just beginning. Canadian copper producers didn't wait, they pivoted fast, looking east to Asia. Boardrooms in Vancouver and Toronto became command centers, forging new deals with Japan, South Korea, and China. Trade delegations rerouted from Washington to Seoul, Tokyo, and Beijing, offering stable, tariff-free copper. Within weeks, Canada's copper exports to the U.S. plummeted, replaced by long-term Asian contracts. South Korean and Chinese firms locked in supply, eager to secure reliable sources. Canada was decoupling from the U.S., not by choice, but by necessity. The U.S. tariff didn't just close a door, it opened a bridge for Canada to America's biggest rivals. New trade routes and relationships are being built, and they won't be easily undone. The global balance of power in metals is shifting. America's loss is Asia's gain. The consequences will echo for years. Ottawa responded with disbelief and resolve, condemning the U.S. tariff as unjustified and a betrayal of partnership. The Canadian government launched a WTO challenge and prepared retaliatory tariffs targeting politically sensitive U.S. goods. In Washington, officials doubled down, defending the tariff as vital for national security and American jobs. Diplomatic ties grew cold, replaced by public confrontation and economic threats. Businesses caught in the crossfire faced deep uncertainty. The era of quiet cooperation was over, replaced by economic warfare and eroded trust. The copper tariff didn't just disrupt trade, it created a political rift between two close allies. The damage to the relationship may outlast the policy itself. The copper tariff's impact is immediate and severe for American industries. Automakers face $800 in extra costs per electric vehicle, threatening affordability and competitiveness. Home builders warn the tariff could add $3,000, $5,000 to new homes, worsening the housing crisis. Construction projects stall as copper prices surge. The energy sector's grid upgrades are delayed or underfunded, jeopardizing reliability and clean energy goals. Manufacturers across the board report rising costs and shrinking margins. The policy meant to protect industry is acting as a tax on American production. Over 80% of manufacturers expect negative impacts within months. Instead of a renaissance, the tariff risks triggering a recession in U.S. manufacturing. The pain is widespread and growing. Canada's response was swift. Retaliatory tariffs on $15 billion of U.S. goods targeting bourbon, cheese, oranges, and more. The strategy hit key American constituencies and turned the trade dispute into a domestic political problem for Washington. Public sentiment in Canada hardened, with boycotts and anti-American sentiment surging. U.S. exporters from cheesemakers to bourbon distillers saw orders evaporate. Small businesses became collateral damage in a fight they never chose. The cycle of tariffs and retaliation is poisoning public opinion and making compromise harder. The once friendly border now feels like a line of conflict. Delays and inspections increase, and the sense of North American community is fraying. The copper tariff has ignited a fire that threatens the broader relationship. The damage is social as well as economic. The rift is deepening on both sides. The fallout is far from over. As North America feuds, Asia seizes the opportunity. China, South Korea, and Japan move quickly to secure Canadian copper, gaining a critical edge. Chinese firms sign long-term deals and invest directly in Canadian mines, ensuring stable supply for their industries. American manufacturers, meanwhile, face soaring costs and shrinking competitiveness. South Korea and Japan follow suit, locking in their own supply lines. The U.S. tariff has created a two-tiered global market, Asia in the advantageous tier. The shift is more than economic, it's geopolitical. Asia is becoming the center of gravity for copper, manufacturing, and influence. America's inward turn is ceding leadership to its rivals. The new copper trade routes are reshaping the global order. The consequences will define the century. As the tariff deadline nears, the true cost is clear. American consumers and businesses will pay the price. Everyday goods, from cars to electronics, will get more expensive, hitting lower and middle-income families hardest. Small manufacturers face existential threats, squeezed by higher costs and lost export markets. The risk of layoffs and bankruptcies is rising. The policy meant to protect is isolating America, weakening alliances and strengthening rivals. The global trading system is fragmenting, making the U.S. more vulnerable to shocks. This is a moment for reflection. Can America secure its future by building walls? The copper crisis is a lesson in unintended consequences. The path chosen now will shape America's role in the world for decades to come.